Okay, cool. All right, can everyone see that? Yeah, perfect. All right, cool. All right, so we're going to get into the really fun part, the rediCASE part. So let me just, next one. Okay, so we'll be going over accepting and commencing referrals, session hours and requesting more hours, entering service contacts and outcome measures, exiting, using notes and uploading documents. rediCASE reports will touch on, but we don't go into in detail. I'll quickly touch on groups, but again, not in detail because it won't apply to everyone. Just to remind people, we kind of touched on this before, but phone call attempts, so certain things need to be put into the notes. So as we mentioned before, although they're not recorded, phone call attempts do need to be recorded under the notes tab. It's not a service contact. So remember the mental health governance that Rachel touched on before. I'll touch on how to upload documents, but things like letters, emails, or communication, anything you think that would be appropriate to be attached to the client's file, I will show you how to do that as well. So I am going to go over, I did some screenshots just to test referral. So this isn't an actual referral. I just created like a dummy one for the purpose of the training. So there's no information that I'm giving out. So I'm just going to stop sharing and then I'm going to share this one. Okay. I'm going to zoom in a bit. Let me just know when it's good. Can everyone see that? Is that quite clear or no? Some people are saying no.
A little bit more.
Is that better?
Yeah.
That's probably as far as I could.
Yeah. And it's also attached in the meeting invite, isn't it, Sophie?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Heaps of documents will be attached in there. So if you're looking for something specific, it'll most likely be in there. Okay, so pretty much, as I said, what I did was I went through and made a test referral and then did some screenshots. It's just good to have some visuals on how things are done through rediCASE. So certain things you won't see and only some tabs intake will see. So if you don't see everything necessarily on here, it's not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong. It's just that intake get to see a little bit more than most people do. So when a referral comes in into tasks, one of the first things to do when we click onto it is this is what will come up. So at the top, you've got your SWS. It'll say that it's still on hold. This will indicate it'll go from on hold once we release it. It will go to not viewed. And then once whoever needs to be viewing it, whether it's the admin, most likely will be before it's assigned, it'll be go to an admin first. And that'll come up as viewed once they've viewed it. And this all up here, it will indicate where things are kind of up to. So once it's accepted, it'll come up accepted. If the referral is closed, it'll be up here. So this SWS number is very important. It will identify each referral. It's a good way to communicate with us or other people giving the SWS, because if you can avoid giving someone's name, initials, or date of birth, it is preferable to give the SWS if you have it. So as you can see, it's just a test that I've got up here, and I just put in like the date of birth. So when it first comes into us, it will look like this. Up the top, this isn't going to be relevant to all services. But as you can see here, it says approved service contact hours. So when it first comes in, it's going to come up usually out of 3, depending on the service. So for some services, such as like Connector Hub, It won't come up for low intensity CBT, won't come up for credential mental health nurse service. But for You in Mind and for a couple of other services, this will come up here. So it'll say 3. What we will do is we will actually go into the documents and communication, and we'll have a look at the manual referral, and we also have a look at the documents attached to see that things are okay. If they are okay, we will click this button here, the assign and release. It's important to note that we will release sessions based off what we have in front of us. So if there's already a GP, like a mental health treatment plan attached, we will release, like, for example, 12 sessions. If there is not one, we will release 3. So what we're given there to begin with is what we will start off with. And this is mainly for You in Mind, moderate and high. We then get communication from usually the clinician or admin for that particular service through our email. And once there is a mental health treatment plan or review, we will increase sessions based off that. So starts off 3. Well, then once with the treatment plan moves up to further 9 and will be 12. And then for most, I think it's for moderate, can go up to 18. You in Mind high is also 18, but we can give a couple of extra sessions up to 20 if needed. And yeah, we now have the ability, which we didn't have before. It's been about maybe like just under a year now that we've had the ability to actually release specific session hours, whereas before we could only give bulks of 12, which was not very helpful. So this is what it looks like for us. I discussed the sessions, see how that one's 12. It's because I've gone in and I've released that and I've added 12. And as you can see, I mentioned here, this will change as it comes off hold. So it'll say not viewed.
Sophie, can you zoom in a tiny little bit more? Just the actual writing from rediCASE is a bit small.
I think that's probably as far as I can go.
Yeah,
is that okay?
Yeah, I can read that now.
Is that a bit better? Okay. Let me know if my scrolling is off from what I'm sharing, because sometimes that can happen. So if the referral needs to be changed to another service after the initial release, intake can only do this if the below function still comes up. So this function here, excuse me, assigned to referral organization, that's only going to come up for intake. You won't see it if it's only been viewed. If it's been accepted, that will not come up for us. So what we kind of suggest is that if it goes to if it comes to you and it's not, for example, not meant for you, or maybe your admin in the team kind of discuss what's appropriate for that person and it's decided that it is not the service that it's gone to, you just let us know via email, and then don't accept it because you're not accepting it. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you're just viewing it, you're figuring out that if the referral is appropriate, if you're going to take it on, excellent, accept. If not, then don't accept it, keep it as viewed, because what we can do is just click the assign to referral organization again and refer it on to where it's most appropriate. You also can't see the duplicate referral button. If you're admin, you might, but you probably won't. If you're not, so we can duplicate a referral if need to be, exactly how it sounds. So if for some reason it is accepted and then it is decided that it's not, that service is not the most appropriate for that person, or if there's another concern, we can, if this function isn't here, we can actually duplicate the referral and send it again to where it's meant to go. It's just creating, yeah, exactly as it sounds, a duplicate of what we already have, and then forwarding that on. So to accept the referral, highlighted here, as you can see, this is all at the moment underneath the Actions tab, just to point out in case that isn't clear. So we're under the Actions tab at the moment. We haven't gotten to any of the other tabs yet, so we're just under Actions. So to accept, you would be clicking this one here. If the referrer has an email address, they'll be notified about the referral being accepted. For example, when we put in GP hours, like if the referral comes from a GP, sorry, a lot of GPs don't put their email in. It's quite rare. We have a way around that for putting in, because you do need to have an email address in that section. So we will put kind of like a dummy email address. But if you're in discussion with any GPs, encourage them to please put in their email address, because it's actually quite helpful. Any questions, I'll go through the chat and have a look at the very end. Yeah, a lot of the services won't have a cap. So Head to Health doesn't have a cap. Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat coming in. Head to Health won't. As I said, credentialed mental health nurse, low intensity CBT, Connector Hub. There's quite a few that won't have a cap. If it doesn't apply, the sessions, it won't be up there. You just won't be able to see it. The sessions won't come up at all. If that's the case, there's no cap. If there is one, you'll see it up there. It doesn't always apply necessarily that exact amount. For example, suicide prevention is 10 sessions. Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat. Okay, that's answering that. Perfect. Okay, moving on. Now, we talked about commencing a referral. When commencing the referral, still under the Actions tab, this is how you're commencing it. Now, as mentioned before, unless you have actually made contact with that client, you will not be commencing, because what the commence button will do, and I'll show you how this works, is the commence button is going to then ask you to enter in your first service contact. And if you haven't made contact with that person, and it's actually quite extensive on the information that you need, if you haven't done that, you're not going to be prepared to enter in that's first service contact. So if you're just making phone calls and you're not getting through, remember it's going in the notes, and I'll talk to a little bit, I think I go through that later on. But if you are ready to commence, you've made contact with a person, you're ready to enter in the service contact, then that's when you're going to be commencing. So that's really important. Sometimes what will happen is that we have released a referral, and then all of a sudden a treatment plan is available within a short period of time after that. Unless you've commenced it, we can't give any further sessions. So we'll give what we have to begin with, as I said. So we go off the documentations that we have. If you upload it after we've released it to you, please just email us and let us know, because until you've commenced it, we can't alter the sessions. So it's a bit complicated, but we can only work with, I guess, what rediCASE will allow us to do in that regard. So very important, when you are commencing, you must check the client's details. If they're all okay, fine. If not, then you just edit it. And then you'll have to add a response. This is very unique, but it's really important because some people might think they can't save it for some reason. This little flag here, it requires an answer to be entered. I'm not exactly sure why, but it won't actually let you save and proceed without looking at this. So if you're not sure, there's many different options to go off. If you know that it's correct, it'll let you enter that. If not, it'll go through the different options. So you just apply what's most applicable. And then you'll be able to continue on. So after this, you will be prompted to commence the treatment episode, which requires infilling all the details that have an asterisk. Very important. If something is not correct, it actually won't let you proceed unless it'll kind of like come up and say that up the top, it'll say that you haven't entered in something. I think it comes up in red. So as I've said, if you're not ready to commence it or to add into a service contact, don't commence it, because you won't be able to answer some of this information. So it's not going to be helpful to commence it unless you're ready. So after this, you'll be prompted to enter in a service contact. Please note the session amount will be present up the top. No, not all the referrals are coming from PHN navigators. Give me a second. No, they're not. So referrals come from GPs, referrals come from clinicians, counsellors, principals. It really does vary. LHD, it comes from lots of different people. So yes, PHN navigators can put in referrals, but it's not solely up to them to put in referrals. I hope that answers that question. So as I said, after this, you'll be prompted to enter in a service contact. Up the top, the session amount will be present and it will change as you add sessions to reflect what you have left. Very important. Keep an eye out on the sessions that you have. You don't want it to sneak up on you and then all of a sudden it comes in and you haven't, you're ready to enter in one in, you're 12 out of 12 and you haven't got the documentation. So I know it's hard having lots of people like in your caseload, but it's just important to keep an eye on that. Sorry, another question. Is there a way to know that we have not been in contact with?
So we've been through this a few, sorry, Sophia.
No, you go. No, you go.
We've been through this a few times. A service contact is only when you see the client. So you wouldn't enter a service contact for making a phone call and they haven't picked up. If you make a phone call and they don't pick up, you put that under notes, and you would only commence it once you've seen the person, which is a service contact. Does that make sense? Yeah, any further questions on that?
Cool. Thanks, Rach. Okay, so it's going to come with a few different tabs. This is what the service contact will look like. So as I mentioned, up here is approved hours. It might not come up at all if, as I said, if it's not applicable to that service, if there's no cap. If there is, it will come up here. It'll say 0 out of 3, 0 out of 12, whatever it might be. Sometimes it's an odd number. PSP, which is the peer support service, which is linked in with you in my moderate and high, that has 3 sessions on top of what they're actually getting. So in this case, it would be 15. That's when they're referred to PSP though. So they get sessions that's more of like a collaborative than it is about having a treatment plan or a review. So sometimes it's a little bit off. It won't exactly be that, but for the most part, that's what you'll see and it will be up here. We're under the details at the moment. The details are reasonably straightforward. It's going to ask, who's the practitioner, the date, the modality of the contact, did they attend? There's also going to be, the venue, anything else that you wanted to add, such as if there's an interpreter used, that kind of thing. Some of these tabs, we're actually working with rediCASE that we're actually locking certain answers in. So say, for example, if you entered in that the person did participate, it might lock something else in one of the other sections, so that way you can't answer it. The reason it does that is because our PMHC MDS data, sometimes, well, what was happening was that we were getting conflicting answers in these service contacts, which then cause issues with us uploading our data to the government portal, which we need is really important because we need to report on our data to continue funding and all of those wonderful things. So more of those functions will come up where you'll notice you'll pick something and then it'll lock another answer in. It's doing that for a reason. So an incorrect answer can't be clicked. So it's kind of helping us on both ends there. Up the top here, we've also got the tools, screens, and outcome reports. I go through them a little bit more, I think. Let me just make sure I do. Yes, I do. Okay. So if you state that the client has completed a tool, you'll actually not be able to save the service contact until this has been added in. So as I mentioned here, you're going to go up to the tools and screens, and it will come up looking like this. So you'll select the tool that you did, and it will prompt you to enter in the details for that. So I've put in, as an example, outcome tool offered and completed, excellent. It's also, I'm also saying that further services are planned for this client. So as you can see here, it wants me to enter in the details of the outcome tool. So I'm now on the Tools and Screens tab. And in this case, I've just selected a K10. It's usually the most common one. And you'll enter in what is applicable and it'll give you a tally. Let me just, move across here. And what you would do is you would then save the tool. And then what that's going to do is, as I said, make sure you save the tool. And then this will prompt you to then save the service contact. So you've got to save the tool and then it will come up looking like this. So I've just added in a dummy score and then you'll be able to save the service contact. So what will come up will be based off the answers that you put in. It's pretty self-explanatory. Just make sure that you save as you go where it prompts you to. So that way, you know, you're not thinking that you've saved something and it hasn't come up. This one, I'm not sure, Rachel, have we already locked this? So you can't enter in? Have we already locked this particular? I don't know if we have.
I think the next release was fixing that. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So the next release with rediCASE is that what we will be doing, as I said, how it would lock some answers that you have. If you're logging a service contact that is not face-to-face, you must choose postcode 9999 under the tab service contact location. So in the future, you won't have to worry about this. It'll actually be locked. So if you put in that it's not face-to-face, it'll automatically lock the answer for you. Ben, you had a question.
Yeah, sorry. I get that there's also the component that you're dealing with the consumer at this point. When it comes to putting in a service contact for, say, engaging with another service, even though the consumer is not involved with this, I just wanted to get clarification that when you add it in, it's still like whatever the method that you're using, whether it's phone or face, you put it in the contact morality. But when it comes to the attendance shown below, you're still putting yes in there, even though the client is not involved in that discussion.
It depends. So if in that case, no, because the client's actually not involved in that. That would come under, so I think it's service contact participants, or I think it comes up over there that it'll come up with a number of options and it might say like another service and then it gives you options to put that in. So if the client's not involved in that discussion, you wouldn't be putting in that they attended because they didn't. You'd be adding that it was a discussion amongst another service that you had.
Yeah, it's just it's kind of conflicting from the training that I got originally. That's all, and I'm like trying to clarify. As I go, because like I'd sort of go so what I was told.
Sorry,
is,
are you talking about the no-show indicator? So the third up from the bottom.
I believe so.
Yeah. Look, this is really confusing. This is one of the things that we're getting rediCASE to change. That is correct. Yep. So you'll probably see the next release that comes out. This client no-show indicator is worded really confusing and we're getting a lot of errors in it. So the no-show indicator is if you had an appointment and they haven't shown up. So that's what the no-show indicator is. But you'll see under the service contact, there'll be drop downs and there is things for your program, which is Connector Hub, it's psychosocial support. And then there's things like care coordination, carer meetings, stuff like that. So you wouldn't pick, which one is it under? Under the service contact participants would be different. It wouldn't be individual client.
Yeah, so I know that section would be whether that professional or service provider for that bit. I was just trying to gauge what the other half was, because my understanding was when we did the training back in March was that this had to be yes no matter what. And I was like, that doesn't make sense, but okay. Yeah. And then and I feel bad because it means it's thrown your data out significantly.
Look, it's
each
not our
time.
problem. It's the way that rediCASE has designed it, and they're actually that's one of the things that they're fixing, because we're getting a significant amount of errors, because the way that it reads is the way that people put it in, but it's actually not consistent with the MDS errors. So, not to confuse everyone, if the no-show indicator is should be yes if you're entering a service contact, yes, they attended. But you will see probably in January next year that if you click yes, then the other ones will be one of those ones that block out automatically.
Okay. So there'll be a few fill-in options automatically made for you without. Yeah.
It'll kind of like eliminate that confusion, because
sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
Oh, that
it's
one's been
super
driving all of us mad, because then we have to go in and clean the data and fix it. So we'll all be cheering when that's automatically blocked out.
It's been kind of an issue for lots of people. So it's not just you, it's worded very oddly. And Nicola, for your answer, you said, what if some sessions are telehealth and others are face-to-face? So you're entering in a service contact per time you engage with that person. So one time, you might see them as face-to-face. You're going to put in face-to-face. That's one service contact. That's just one. That's entered in as is. And then the next time you see them or you engage with them, whether it's telehealth, face-to-face, that's a new service contact. So pretty much every time an appointment is booked, a time to meet up is booked, they're each an individual service contact. So you can't choose multiple. It's, goes kind of one by one. I hope that
and the service contact modality has different drop-down boxes. It might not be face-to-face. It might be phone. It might be telehealth. So you would select the different service contact modality for what you're doing for that service contact.
Yeah. I've just put in all of what I've got in these screenshots, they're all examples. I've just put it in as is. So many of the drop-downs will have multiple different options. So you're not stuck with the ones I've just put on there. Okay, so example of service contact telehealth, we kind of went through that. I'm not going to stick too much to it. So as you can see, I've selected telephone at this time. And again, that fixed location's put in there. Hopefully very soon, the next release, that'll be as well locked in, so you won't have to worry about that. And also, as you can see, the service contact final, if you want to, this is a way for you to be able to close it if you want to on your end. We really do suggest that the clinician or whoever's the most appropriate person be closing it. We don't tend to close it on our end unless it's certain circumstances. The service contact final, it does give you different options. So before I selected that we'd entered in a tool, and that also that there was other services planned for the person. In this case, I've put no further services are planned, and then it'll come up with this. Do you want to close the episode of care? Yes, that's going to close the episode. So you don't have to at that point. If you're not sure, there's actually an option to say that you're not sure if, there's other options to choose from. If you're not entirely sure if there's other, sessions planned for that person. But if you know you're going to close it, you can close it this way. So once you've entered your first service contact, a tab that wasn't there before is going to be visible now, and that is the case file tab, which is this tab here. So if you need to enter in a service contact moving forward, sorry, because I've zoomed in, I'm going to have to move left to right. So underneath the service contacts tab, it just says add service contact here. So this is going to show up for you. And that's how you're going to enter in service contacts from now on, because you've already commenced it. So that's not going to come up again. That button's going to go away. And this is how you'll do it from now on. Add service contact will come under there, underneath the service contacts tab. You won't see the delete. Only I can intake can see the delete. You won't be able to. You'll see the view and edit. So you can edit it, or you can just view it. Say you entered in a K10 and you're like, oh my gosh, I have messed that up and I need to go in and change that. You can do that. Just go to edit and it'll bring you back to that service contact. If for some reason you've completely messed the entire thing up and you're like, I just want to delete it and start over with that service contact, that's fine, but you'll have to let us know because you won't be able to delete it. you'll just let us know and we'll just go in and delete the whole thing. If it's not an easy fix, sometimes that's better to do that. Okay, I've gone through that. Okay. If you try and enter in a service contact that exceeds the amount of time remaining, you won't be able to enter it in. So it's not going to come up. This is why I said it's really important to keep an eye on the sessions that you have. Really, really important. Remember, not going to be for all services, but if it does apply to you, it's really important to keep an eye on that because yeah, it creates an issue. You're then trying to enter in a contact, trying to remember what happened in that service contact with that person. And it kind of just, it really makes it a bit difficult for you. So please keep an eye on that. If you do have the correct documentation, you're more than welcome to request that. So this is this part. And it's very, very important. It will flash for you to say, it'll come up that you're kind of at the last session. So it will let you know, but it's important to know where you're up to and what documents you have. That's really, really important. So if you know that you're up to 12 sessions and you know that you don't have a review, and this goes for a treatment plan. If you're up to your 3rd session and you know that there isn't a treatment plan, it is really important that at the beginning stages, for example, of starting with this client, you ask them, do you have a mental health treatment plan on file? Or if they don't have one, encourage them to go to the GP and get one, treatment plan or review, whatever it is, try and get in early because not all doctors are easy to get into and there might be like a wait or whatever it is. So try and encourage that person to get in where they can for their treatment plan and sessions. This is really important. It's a pet peeve of mine. So once you've reached your maximum sessions, it's going to prompt you to ask for additional sessions. If you don't have the documentation, do not press yes. Because what's going to happen is I'm going to, or Veronica or Jackie, one of the intake officers will go into the task. It'll come up for us saying there's additional session request. We go in and the first thing we do is have a look and see what documentation you have. If the appropriate documentation isn't there, we'll reject it, the request. And then what we'll do is you'll always be able to find in the notes, we will put the reason. So if you're not sure what the reason is and you think that you have the right documentation, we look and we go, okay, we know that you don't. We will put in notes. Have a look at the notes. It's a really important section. We document quite well with pretty much everything. We'll put in the reason. We'll probably say, for example, treatment plan required for further sessions. So have a look in the notes. We will indicate why it was rejected if you don't know why, but don't press yes if you know you don't have what you need. Very, very important, please. As I said, in the notes tab, a treatment plan review is required for further sessions. It's pretty straightforward. If you're not sure, this is where it will be. This is where we're going to tell you why we didn't approve it. If then you later on get that documentation, you upload it in the documents and communication, and I'll go through that, and then just send us a quick email. Hey there, I got that review needed. Could you please give further sessions? For a lot of people, their admin does this, depending on what org you're with. If it's up to you, you will email us directly if you don't have an admin person who does that on your behalf. Okay, as mentioned before, the notes, very, very important. The notes tab can be found under actions, and it's just here. That's how you add the admin note. To view it, the notes tab is here. So you'll add in the note, save it, and then it's going to come up here. So just keep that in mind. That's where that's going to be. Okay, so to edit the client's details, what you will do is you're going to enter, click on, sorry, I'm trying to make it so you can kind of see how that works. So the actions tab is here. There's also 2 kind of tabs up here. The client details will be up here. You just need to click on that, edit what you need to, and then you can save it. So for example, if their name is spelt wrong, you can go in, you can go to the client details, fix it up, and then save it. That's just an example. That's just a common example. But that's how you would, just their details, their basic details, address, name, things like that. There's also other details, but that doesn't tend to be used a whole lot. Okay, and for case file information, so this tab, as I said, it's only going to come up once you've entered in your first service contact. It will not come up otherwise. This is important for a lot of reasons, mainly about groups. I'll touch on that very briefly later because we're kind of running out of time. So the lead practitioner details will be here. The referral date, it'll tell you that it's open or closed or whatever the status of it is over here. And then you've also got the referrer profession. So again, these are things that in the future will be locked because it was an error. So referrer profession, this is an example. I've put in a self-referral. Whatever you put should match each other, except in the case of LHD or others. You just kind of pretty much go off what you know your role is. It's pretty straightforward. And it'll kind of go through this quite an extensive drop down. I can't go into it because this is a screenshot, but it'll give you a good list and it's pretty self-explanatory. And then it kind of goes through client health and those kind of details. The case file tab is important. I'll just mention with groups is because we can't enter in your case file tag unless, and as I said, this is only going to apply to people who do groups. We can't enter in your tag unless this case file tab is here. That's very important. That's to do with like funding and reporting and that kind of stuff for groups, just to keep that in mind.
Which programs do groups, Sophie? Maybe just say that.
Oh, sorry. Yep. So Staff for Kids do quite a lot of groups. They do multiple groups, usually at a time. You in Mind also do groups. You in Mind Moderate and High also do groups. And I imagine in the future more will. So that's important just to keep in mind. That's what that will apply to. For the groups, just quickly, if it applies to you, discuss with your admin or whoever it is that you, I guess, go to for that kind of information. Discuss with them the startup of how groups work. You're always got to discuss with them, is there the funding? Say, for example, schools will come to a Staff for Kids and say, we want to do this group. Okay, is there the funding? Need to make sure we fill in all the correct information and send it to us. But if that applies to you and you want more information, just contact us and we can go through it. I'm not going to go into it now because we're running out of time. To add documentation, so we went through kind of these tabs. Documentation is at the end here. And then you just click this little upload document button. It's also to view. So you upload there, but if you want to view a document, it's going to come up here. There's no documents I've added to this one, so it's not coming up, but it will come up here, what you already have as well.
I feel like I'm just out of touch with reality for like a good 1 hour.
We're just rediCASE? Are you talking to me?
I can't, the client cancelled. Yeah.
Oh, not me. Mute participant. Sorry, Amanda. All right. History tab, does feel kind of like another element rediCASE does, so I wouldn't blame her if she was talking about rediCASE. Okay, so the history tab will show you what's happened, kind of like in a condensed way, which is really helpful. So the history tab, as you can see, this is an example. So the referral was created. It shows you who did it. Assigned and released. I also did that. The referral was accepted. Obviously, it's going to change depending on who did it. I approve sessions in there, and it was also closed. So it'll give you date and time. When a referrer calls, and this is why it's really important, this kind of information, when a referrer or whoever it is calls to say what's going on with this referral, we look at the notes tab, we look at the history, we'll check what documentation there is, and we'll look at the referral itself. So the history is kind of a good capsulated way of saying this is what's happened so far with this referral. Okay. Non-clinical tab is where any non-clinical activity can be uploaded. Some of this can also be done in the notes tab. It really does depend on the service. So for example, I know Connector Hub have a certain way of using the non-clinical tab. I don't use it You might not need to use it at all. You might just use the notes, but keep in mind that notes and non-clinical are not captured by the Department of Health, so that your service contacts will be, but not these two. So it'll kind of depend on what's most appropriate for your program. Some do use it, but it will depend.
And in particular, Head to Health use a lot of the non-clinical tabs. So as I said, we have so many different programs. It just really depends on how your program is using rediCASE. Head to Health use a lot of the non-clinical tab to capture those phone calls, etc. So, and then some of the programs don't really use a lot of the non-clinical. But a service contact is the clinical in nature. So if you are having a session with a client, whether it's psychological therapies, whether it's a social service, whether it's care coordination, whether it's doing an assessment, they're all service contacts. The non-clinical one would be things around that are not associated with their treatment. Does that make sense? It might be, you have to do admin for something. It might be scheduling appointments for them, things that are non-clinical in nature. And then the notes are to capture, those, tried to call them and they didn't pick up, stuff like that. Does that make sense? Yep. Great.
Excellent. All right, we're going to keep pushing through. So another tab that can come up is the step up and step down in brackets on refer. So to step up or step down, you would use that particular function. So just to give an example, you might on refer open. This is just an example. I'm going to give this example as for PSP. Remember I mentioned peer support service. So if you are putting through someone, they're under you in my moderate or high, and you're a clinician, usually it's only the clinicians under you in my moderate and high that will be able to then refer the person to PSP. You would click the on refer. So that on refer button will prompt you, it will give you prompts on based off what is most appropriate for you. In this case, PSP, the PSP and the original psychological referral both need to be open. So you wouldn't put on refer closed, you put on refer open. If you wanted to refer someone, say for example, they're under you in mind or new access, and you want to refer them to Connect a Hub, but you're like just as an on top of. So you want to say for example, you could use that on refer button as well. The step up, step down is more in relation to how we said we were talking about step care. So say the person is under you in mind moderate, they've been having maybe a couple of sessions, just an example, and the clinician with the, I guess, discussion with the client decide more intensive care is needed, that would be a step up. You'd be stepping that person up to you in mind high. It goes both ways. Someone could be in you in mind high and step down to you in mind moderate. They could be in moderate and step down to low intensity CBT. So the step up down is a way of moving between services for that person based off what their needs are. So there is a difference, step up and down, or you're on referring. So when stepping up and down, remember you're not keeping the original service, you're moving to a different one. So say you're in you in mind moderate, that person needs to go to high. They're not going to have two. They're not going to have you in mind moderate and high. You can only have one or the other. We don't double up in the same kind of services. That's really important. I might just touch on that. So a client could have Connect a Hub, psychosocial. They could have Docatella, which is psychiatry. That's completely separate. They could have you in mind high. Those are three different services, but they don't overlap with each other in what is being given. For example, the person though, what would be a crossover is you wouldn't have someone having a suicide prevention referral and you in mind moderate or high referral, because the suicide prevention referral, that comes first because obviously there's a risk involved. That would be completed and the person could be stepped down once they've completed that. Or for example, the nurse service, they do psychological services. So you wouldn't be putting a referral through to you in mind high and the nurses. That's crossing over. They're doing half of the same thing. It would be one or the other.
Yeah, so I guess the psychological therapies, you can only be in one psychological therapy program, but you can be in consultant psychiatry and a psychosocial program. Does that make sense? So only one psychological therapy at a time, which often gets confused.
Yep. Awesome. Okay. To close the referral, remember I mentioned that you can do it under service contacts if you know they're not having any more service contacts, or you can just go to the actions tab and put close referral. Pretty straightforward. If you've closed it prematurely, as I said, just contact us and we can reopen it for you. You won't have the ability to do that on your end, so you'll need to ask us. I mentioned no further. That's what I mentioned before about service contact final. Okay, so this is important. This is going to be how you do your smart form. So this is a PHN manual referral. What you will do is you'll go up to the referral tab up the top, the red banner up the top, and select PHN manual referral. All these options will not come up. They're just for intake. And that is how you do start the smart form. This is what you're going to click on, and it's going to come up with our smart form, and then you'll enter that in and it will prompt you as you go. To get to the rediCASE user manuals, they're under profile and help. You can also log off through there. Sometimes the guides and manuals can be a little bit confusing. So if you've read through it and you're still a bit confused, you're more than welcome to ask us. If we don't know, we'll ask rediCASE. But try and start off with the guides and manuals if you can. Reports, again, we're up on that, still on that red banner at the top. Administration, and as I said, you're not going to see all of these. It'll be a condensed based off what your access is to rediCASE. You'll only see a certain amount of things. So you've got reports there. We don't use reports a lot. Your own reporting will be based, like that'll be a discussion that you'll have with your program advisor, what your contract is, all that reporting, that'll be discussed within that. Intake aren't on top of that. That's not part of our role, is to be on top of what each person's reporting is. So we don't tend to use that a lot. If you need to get more information on that, discuss it with either your admin or the program advisor, or whoever is appropriate. Okay, I might just skim through this.
Sorry, I might just clarify something for everyone, because these sometimes people get a little bit confused with this. Within rediCASE, there's different user accounts to protect confidentiality. So you've got your admin within a program, the admin user, which they can see all clients across that program. Yeah. And then you have the clinician user, which they can only see the clients who have been allocated to them. So two clinicians cannot see each other's caseload to protect confidentiality. The admin can see it all within their program that they're allocated to. The way that it's set up like that is obviously to protect confidentiality, to make sure that everyone in the program can't see everybody's information. Only the clients allocated to your caseload you have access to and can see, unless you are the admin role. And then the intake can see everybody within rediCASE. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I'm glad you mentioned that. That's really that's a good one to bring up, Rach.
And sometimes if you're a clinician and they're not allocated to you, you won't be able to access their file unless they're allocated to you.
Yep. For some services, because you might need different logins, so don't be confused. This is just an example for Head to Health. You might be the Liverpool and is it Bankstown? Yeah, Bankstown site. That's two different logins. You can't use the same login for the same thing, because you're not going to be able to see the list of clients. They're two completely different lists of clients. So if we send you multiple logins because you're over different things, you use those different logins for whatever it is that you're wanting to look at. That's very important. As well, for just to mention while we're on around the wait list, a person, until they are ready to be assigned, until they're on their wait list, until they're ready to be assigned, and say you've put in a referral for a client, that client will, unless it's a priority, they will go to their place in the wait list, and you won't see them come up onto your caseload until they are assigned to you, and that's because they're on a wait list. They're not going to, you can't just put a referral in and just because you've put it in, it's going to like skip to the front of the line. It doesn't work like that. It'll be assigned to you when it's ready to be, kind of thing. So that's just important for the wait lists. Rach, I might not, a lot of this is going to be changed, but this is what we're referring to around the options that you have to choose for, like entering in, for example, either the psychological therapy, low intensity clinical care coordination. This is just going through the different options that you have. Remember that we're sharing this document is in part of the documents that's attached to the Teams invite. So if you want to look at more about the specifications, you can.
A lot of that's defaulted, so they won't even see it. It's already defaulted.
Yeah. I'm not gonna, we already spoke about the contact modality and contact type. I'm not gonna go into that too much because we kind of discussed that quite a bit. You're more than welcome to have a look through if there's something that you wanted to get a bit more detail in, but we've kind of discussed that. Service contact venue as well, that kind of thing. Service contact location, we discussed that about telehealth, and the service contact final, we also discussed that. The outcome tools, we also have some information on that. There's lots of resources down here on this document. It goes through, our brochure, the IAR as well, data set, regional plan, suicide prevention, Head to Health, and Head Start as well. So I'm going to stop sharing that.
Sophie, for those that had a question, did you want to quickly show them what doing a smart form referral looks like and share the link?
I actually have a video of that I did that I might share just because we're running close out of time. I actually have a video. I'll review it and make sure that the information is still up to date. It's actually me going through and recording, talking about doing a smart form. What I might suggest is that when I do discuss the IAR, but I do not go into detail. I would suggest doing that workshop with Alina to pair that video of the smart form with that, so that way you have a bit more information on the IAR. Okay. Let me share this again. I'm just gonna, sorry, we're kind of running out of time, so I'm just gonna push through. Why isn't that doing it? All right. Okay. I'm just going to push through this. So what is intake versus what is Redborn? This is really important. Often questions will come through to us, and unfortunately it's not something that we can go into detail about. So what is intake? A new user to be set up. So say you've got a new person who's come into a particular program, a new user form would come to us. Changes to permissions. Rachel just discussed permissions. If you're a clinician, you can only see who's assigned to you, that kind of thing. We can change permissions. We can allocate further sessions, reopen referrals, delete sessions, and change the streams as well. That is mainly what we will do. rediCASE, Redborn, sorry, issues with lagging or error messages. That would be a rediCASE thing. That would be a Redborn thing. Authentication issues. Again, that's going to be a Redborn thing. We can no longer access resetting your password or anything like that. If you don't get a reset password email, then you're contacting Redborn. We can't look at that. Complicated technical questions such as about reports or really like rediCASE specific kind of issues you're having with it is probably going to be Redborn. If you're not sure, you can contact us and we might say, we might forward the email on to Redborn and just let you know we've forwarded on to them. Or probably what we'll do is say, could you please follow up with Redborn? And as I mentioned here, passwords, we can't change that. That'll be in the main login page, and certain details as well that you won't be able to do. So you'll need to contact us about. Okay, we're not doing a break time. We might just keep going if that's okay. Rachel, will this stop? Like cut people off, or can we just keep going? over. We can just keep going over, can't we? Yeah, cool. Okay, so common queries. I kind of touched on this, but I might just go through a little bit more. Why has my request for further sessions been declined? I kind of discussed this. It's going to be in the notes. Do you have the relevant information? Do you have the right documentation? Is the documentation in date? That's an important one. So if it's less, so say for example, your treatment plan is over a year old, please go and get a new one, or the review. It needs to be in date. You can't be giving a treatment plan because it's not up to date. It's not reflecting where that person's at in their mental health journey. It's not going to be up to date, and that's not helpful. So we'll ask for that. Is it a letter or is it a treatment plan? This is a common one. A letter that's just example, a one-pager that says, oh, I've done, this treatment plan for this person. That's not a treatment plan. That's a letter saying that they've done a treatment plan. That's not a treatment plan in itself. So please don't upload that and say, can I have further sessions? Because we'll say, no, that's a letter, not a treatment plan. The only time that a letter is given as more sessions is a pediatrician referral. A pediatrician referral or a letter, that is considered a certain amount of sessions, but that's only for staff for kids. For everyone else, it usually will say in a letter, I've done a treatment plan. It would just be a matter of you saying, okay, where is the treatment plan, and getting that rather than just submitting the letter, because we won't give you the sessions. So yeah, have a look in the notes tab to see why that's been declined. Transfers, I discussed that, and adding further sessions as well. We kind of went through that too. Yeah, so just pretty much make sure you have what you need. Upload documents, even outside of sessions, upload documents just for your own, I guess, kind of peace of mind of knowing that it's attached to that person's file and it's somewhere secure. Yeah. Okay, so we've got some additional resources in here as well. Our website, our brochure, we were touched through the neurodevelopmental and behavioural disorders. As I said, the IAR, all of those in there will be really important. That's okay, Renee. Yeah, so have a look through them, and also to the documents attached as well. We're right on 1 o'clock, but the room is open for questions. And I'm sorry, I know I kind of had to rush through that a bit, but I will send out that video that I did discussing how to do a SMART form. And again, I suggest that you pair that with doing the IAR workshop, because I don't go into a huge amount of detail on the IAR. I just skim over it because the answers can be so different per referral. That's a lot, isn't it? I know, as everyone's heads kind of like going to explode. rediCASE, so fun.
And I will say for rediCASE as well, it as with any SIMS, once the user manual is there, up on the tab once you log on, have a look through the user manual. Once you start using rediCASE, it does become a lot clearer once you actually step through it. For any programs or organisations who are possibly new to us and they need a little bit extra individual training, we are happy to do an in-service or organise training for programs if you need more support or more training on rediCASE. Just get in contact with your program advisor or intake, and we can organise any further training with what's required, particularly for like Karatani and the programs who are just coming on and they don't have team members who are experienced, because you've been a commission provider for 2 years. So yeah, does that make sense? Great. Anyone have any other questions?
It'll probably take some time to sit, and then you'll have a question later on. That's fine too. It's a lot of information. Yeah, have a look at the documents attached. Once we have downloaded and done what we need to do with the recordings, we'll send them out. So you'll kind of have the information that you need. If you know that there were any staff that couldn't attend and they need it, you're more than welcome to forward those videos to them, or they can ask us. directly as well, and we can send it. So just keep that in mind. If they need it, that's fine. Sometimes even just it'll be good because the recordings, we've actually blocked them up. It's not one big recording, it'll be 4 recordings. So rediCASE will be the last recording. So that way, if you want to kind of skip other things or you want to go to a certain part, that'll be really helpful. You can just kind of go, yep, last recording, that's rediCASE, that's what I want to go over. You can do that. And it's good because you can pause it as well and kind of go through things. So.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks for your time. We'll also be sending out a questionnaire afterwards just to see how you found the training and if we need to cover anything in more detail, because we'll be running induction training probably every 3 to 6 months, depending on how many new people are coming on board. So, but yeah, in the meantime, send it out to any of your colleagues who weren't able to attend today, and yeah, we're happy to do any further training as required in the next couple of months.
Thanks so much for joining,
Thank
everyone.
you all.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
guys.
Thanks for the training.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.